This video is about service level and setting in PowerSchool special programs. It will show us how to calculate and choose the correct service level and how to calculate and choose the correct setting. Moreover, it will explain what the data is used for and why it is important. So here we are in PowerSchool special programs on the Schedule of Services page. If we look over here, I want to take your eyes over to the dates. Here my start date is 12/25, and down here it's 10/31. And you might not think that's a huge deal, but for PowerSchool special programs, it is. We need to make sure that our dates are aligning, and let me show you why. So if you look here, you can see, oh, it calculated, fabulous. And then you can see over here, all right, I got a percent. But then if you see here, in the setting, it didn't do it. And it's because those dates aren't aligned. I mean, I have my student in special education setting. I should be seeing a good percent over here, but I'm not. So let me show you what happens when I change the dates. I'm going to change this date just because it's a bit easier that way. And you save, continue editing. I'm going to scroll on down. You can see my service grid, my 16.75 hours. It's calculated. Wonderful. And right here, I got the 61%, also calculated, wonderful. And then now my setting has changed to also 61%. And so we want to make sure that our dates are always aligned, otherwise we're not going to get that calculation correct. Now, if we are to choose a second Schedule of Services page, we need to make sure that we're putting in the projected grade as well, because if there's different codes that we're going to be looking at, and those different codes will have to be matched to the grades. So now let's look at service level. Now you may be wondering, like, how do I determine which services to give in the first place? And if you're asking those questions, that's great. Those are good questions to ask, but this video is not the one that's going to answer that. So we're going to assume that these are correct and this is what's working for the student, and the student will be making meaningful progress towards their goals with this. So let's scroll on down to our level of services. So part of what we want to do is to be able to harness what PowerSchool special programs can do in the form of reports to make your lives easier and more efficient, so you're able to spend your time on other tasks. And this particular field right here, this goes to the projected school on the profile. And I think that could be really useful to know the projected school when we're doing projections. So I'm going to go ahead and change this. And I'm going to say, instead of Independence, that the student's going to go to Mountain View Middle School. And although I haven't shown you yet, trust me, we can write reports that once that goes through, we'll be able to see all the kids who are going to Mountain View Middle School next year. All right, so this next part is the level of service, which is kind of the meat and potatoes of why we're making this video. So we need to choose the correct one. And if we're looking at this right now, we're seeing 61%. So the child is in special education 61% of their day. They're receiving services for 61% of their day. So that's quite a bit. That's a lot. Those are a lot of hours. And right here, we have it on level 1. And that's not correct. The correct one is not level 2, but level 3, between 50 and 82%. So I'm going to go to my manual override and click on that. And it's going to move that down to the correct one. And the reason that this is so important is that part of how we get our funding from PED is based off of these service levels. And students with higher service levels are attached to more funding than students who are at lower service levels. So if we have a student who is level 3, we want to make sure that we have them marked as level 3 and not level 1, because that's funding for next year. And that funding pays for teachers. Now, the flip side, if we have a student who is level 1, we don't want to mark them as level 3 because that's fraud and that's bad and we don't want to do that. So I think that the level of service is fairly easy. As long as we know that we're calculating, it's pretty easy to see because 61 falls within 51 to 82% of the day. I love it. Perfect. Now, when we're looking over here at setting, that can feel a little less intuitive. And let me tell you why. Now, the setting requires us to do a little bit of math. And it's not hard math per se. It's really just 100 minus whatever this percent is, minus 61, which is 39. But I can tell you from experience that when I have been in an IEP and there are 100 different things going on and I've got to manage every single one of those things, when I'm looking at the setting, I have to admit I've made a mistake once or twice, maybe 3 times. And so what I did was I put a sticky note next to my computer with what I'm going to show you right now. So most of the kiddos that we're going to choose are going to be RC80. About nationally, I think it's around 65% of our kids will be in RC80. So that means they're going to be inside the regular class 80% or more of the day. So if this number right here were to be between 0 and 20%, you're going to choose RC80. Now, RC79 to 40 is different. So if our students, if what we see in that percent right there is anywhere between 21 to 60, then we're going to choose RC79 to 40, which means that they're in the regular class between 40 to 79% of the day. And the one that happens least is our students who may be in a special education setting for 61% to 100% of the day. And then that would be RC39. And that's for students who are school age. So students who are in kinder past 12th grade. But there are other settings as well. So we have separate school. So these are children who receive an educational program in a public or private separate day school facility. And so these are children with disabilities receiving special education and related services at public expense for greater than 50% of the school day in a public or private separate school. Now, homebound is different. And I think everyone knows what homebound is. Children who receive programs in a homebound or a hospital environment. We also have students who are correctional facilities. And so those were students who are in correctional facilities. And then residential facilities as well. And I did skip over, accidentally, the PPPS, which is parentally placed private school. And so that is for when parents have elected to choose to send their children to private schools, but those private schools are in our jurisdiction. Then we have a liaison, we have a child find responsibility, and we do a couple other things as well. Generally, I don't expect that lots of us would be choosing that one, or the homebound, or wouldn't be super common, and not the correctional facility or the residential facility either. So that, in a nutshell, is setting. As I mentioned, the biggest thing is to make sure that we have that calculation so it's correct, and then we're choosing the correct setting, which can be a little bit intimidating when we're actually in a meeting and we're trying to think really quickly. The next big deal is to make sure that we have the school where we're expecting our students to go. And if we have a schedule of services year 2, we want to make sure that it is on that one as well, because that one should be the one that flows into the profile. So now that I have my correct service level, which was service level 3, I have my correct school that they're going to be going to, and I also have my correct setting, which was RC39, inside regular class, less than 40% of the day. Let me show you what that looks like on the profile after I finalize this document. So I finalized the document, and now I'm way over here in the student profile. And what you can see when you look under service level and setting is that I have service level 3 and we have the RC39. Perfect. If I'm to pop over to another page, you can see that my projected school is Mountain View Middle School. Also perfect. That's exactly what I had in the IEP. Now, you won't necessarily need to be looking at the profile when you want to run a report. What you can do is we'll have reports made and you'll be able to look at it and be able to see those things. So let me show you a quick example and then we're done with the video. So I quickly built just a sample projection report just a minute ago. And so it's missing some things. But here you can see that I have my kiddo, my expected school year, the exceptionality, the grade, the eval due date, the next IEP due date, projection graduation date. It's missing right now, unfortunately. Expected diploma, caseload teacher, and the setting, the FTE number, and the service. Whether they have an ESY, the BIP, and if they have an HMP as well. And so there's a lot more that we can add to this as we go forward, but this gives us a lot of information about your entire school at your fingertips. But it hinges on us getting the data right in the documents so it can go to the profile so we can have this correct data. And I promise you that as soon as we get all of that going, you're going to love it.